Hi, I'm doing two things. I'll be doing, I'm playing the role of Jeff Frost. Hi. How you doing? And I'm also playing the role of Glen Warren. I'm all going to do it all in 5 minutes. I'll do it in 5 because I think I'm looking at eyes and I see so much thankfulness for that 5-minute call. First of all, let me just simply say that when we talk about legislative things, there is absolutely no way to disconnect what we do legislatively from the expertise that you have as a credentialed teacher librarian and the people who support you, like our support staff. There's no way to divorce the two. And we are now in a time that, yes, we're probably taking a beating like we never have before. But right now, frankly, who cares? The bottom line is our kids need your expertise like they have never needed before. And what I love is that, you know, we may be out of, everybody else is looking for dollars, but honey, we've got cents. Because not many people are making any sense. All right. So with that said, first of all, I'm going to tell you a legislative story. And it's really, it's very difficult for me to listen to people share without feeling like I'm going to jump out of my body and explode. Has anybody ever felt that way? Like we're saying, let's wonder about the value of school libraries. I mean, the fact that we even have to have that discussion shows you how crazy everybody has become. So, with that said, and obviously I am getting medical attention, so don't worry. Let me tell you a little story about serendipity or God's intervention in our work. It doesn't matter how you see it, but something's lining up to help us out. Because evidently somebody cares about our kids. So, there's just too much crazy good stuff going on in the midst of all the bad. One is this executive order. A few years ago, an executive order was made by the governor. That was the governor. Will he be back? Just wondering. They looked at the state of California and said something along these lines. Shazam! These people don't know how to be digitally literate. Well, no kidding. You know, how many of you have heard about digital natives? Who's ever heard about that? I don't like that term. Now, it's going to keep being used. The only reason I don't like it is it makes me feel old. That's the only reason I don't like it. But the thing is that though these kids are coming in they know how to use the technology, they're digitally literate, they are digital natives, they are not digitally literate. And there's a radical difference between a native and being literate. Now, so, the governor said, we should do something about this. So, they did. And they got this group together, and they came up with this definition for digital literacy. And God bless Jackie Seminitis. I love, and she would. I'm going to watch Wedding Crashers one more time, and I'm expecting to see Jackie on that movie because she wedding crashed right into that gig because they weren't inviting us to the table. Has this sound familiar? Where we are desperately needed, we are often not asked to the table. So anyway, she got in there, and the bottom line is this executive order finally came up with a definition for digital literacy for the state of California, and it's not movable, nor is it changeable. Would you like to hear the definition? People need to know how to use technology and access it. These are the words. These are the words. Access it, use it, evaluate it, integrate it, manage it. That was nice. So they can be successful in their career and their endeavors. Does that sound vaguely familiar to you? So here you have this group that's come up with this executive order. And so the CIO's office, the Chief Information Officer for the state of California, started working with K-12 in this and worked with educational technology folks. And they were just working fabulously with this until the money started running out. And they weren't getting lessons, they weren't getting support. And then finally, in a wonderful act of desperation, we had somebody come from the CIO's office, Rochelle Chong. Do you guys remember that from the CLA? Yeah. Now, I don't remember if you remember, but I was sitting in the front table and I about lost it. Because she was up there saying, look, these people don't move unless you give them money. And I said, I know a group of people that move on conviction and on principle. Because we care. And you know what? She believed it, and the next thing we know is that now, for the state's next implementation plan, they are figuring out how each grade level is supposed to work out for each grade level. They still didn't make the connection to our standards. They still didn't make the connection. So now they have a chair for the state who's going to figure out what each grade level should know. I'm the chair. Anybody want to guess what I'm going to do? Okay. Now, along with that, and really, is there somebody that said it? The next thing is CLearn's online course review. Now, CLearn, who's familiar with CLearn? Okay. Now, CLearn, bless their heart. Who knows Peter Milbury? Bless his heart. But you know that CLearn has not made the connection between the expertise that teacher librarians have and their work. It has not happened. And with a vetting agency, you would think that we are the... Do you know anybody who's good at vetting stuff? That was a joke. So, anyway, what happened is that as they were going forward with online learning, which is a huge deal in California, and by the way, there's not one single good example in this country of online learning that incorporates teacher librarians in the context, not one. And the group that comes up with it is going to blow away all the other regurgitated models. How would you like to have that happen in California? Because remember, they're looking for dollars, and what are we making? So, CLearn, Brian Bridges is a great guy, but I pestered this guy forever. And CLearn, Brian came up to me at the queue and said this. He said, Glenn, we're being called to evaluate online courses. That's CLearn's new duties. Evaluate online courses. And Tom Adams came to me last week. That was 2 weeks ago. And told me that on the 4 areas of content to evaluate an online course, we had to add a 5th. I said, what was that, Brian? Information literacy. I said, oh, that sounds like the model school library standards. He says, yeah. And I realized I had a moment. I said, you know, Brian, you don't have one credentialed teacher or librarian on your group because, you know, Peter's, you know, looking for an RD and peace. And he goes, yeah. I said, so you guys can't implement this legitimately without the person who has the standard. Please, from a legislative point of view, understand, if we had a math crisis, we might need math teachers. If we had an English crisis, we might need English teachers. And if we have an information literacy, illiteracy pandemic, we might need teacher librarians. So, that's changed. That was 2 weeks ago, and God bless Tom Adams, by the way. Then, here comes SB 402. This is a piece of legislation that's coming down the pike. Has anybody heard of SB 402? Okay. SB 402 says, let me summarize it for you. I think we need critical thinking in education. Well, yeah, we do. And you know what? The fact is that legislation has not connected that need. Do you realize there's a wide range of stakeholders that are observing our bulimic education context? And they're saying we need to change this. And they're saying we need to implement these types of, like, what is it? Use, access, evaluation. Sound familiar? And they're writing legislation, but they're not connecting it to our standards. So we have an official letter that went off from CSLA from Jeff Ross. I saw the draft of it. I assume it's going to go. And again, that's going to make that connection. You know, it's funny. You would think people know this stuff. Guess what? And if you don't tell them, who is? Then AB 802. Who's heard of AB 802? Okay, you should know AB 802. This is huge. AB 802 is legislation that's addressing how we bring in ADA money for online learning. Currently, all ADA money coming in is for online learning is independent learning, that kind of thing. And what they're trying to do is change that from not just, how they call it, butts in the seat. Is that the official? I don't know if that's the official term. Somebody who teaches, tell me if I'm right. Is that what they call it? I'm getting nods from people. Okay, I got the right thing. Okay, so what they're doing is like you're actually learning online that time. But the thing is that in this legislation, we're still not seeing the role of teacher. And in an online context, you know what? When everybody is vertical teaching, what I mean by that, content area teaching, do you realize, you know what I love, teacher librarians? You're the only horizontal teacher there is. I love that because you guys do what's desperately needed. You cut across all the content areas. And if you look at the Common Core, this is something to really know. Common Core calls for the connection between the siloed areas. But how are you going to get somebody who's an expert in a specific area to do that work? You need somebody. You know who you need? Oh, I'm so glad you knew the answer to that. So there's the pieces of legislation that are coming up, and I think you ought to know about it. It's a single slide. And finally, the brokers of expertise. Some have said, why the brokers of expertise? Well, the brokers of expertise was a site that was created for collaboration for all teachers in the state of California. And for them to put their lessons on there, the media on there, and so people could share freely from one to another. It started off focusing on math and English language arts. And when it ran out of money to pay the people to put the stuff on there, guess what happened? Well, actually, I would love to say that was the case because that would make sense. But that's not what happened. What happened was the teachers stopped, so they had to go after things like Thinkfinity and others to try to populate the site. The fact of the matter is that now we were not going to be included because it had to be focused on math and English language arts. But now they're convinced that our standards are so critical to online learning and on the following things: information literacy, digital literacy, and cyber safety. Do you realize the ante has been up significantly? This is not just prepare for college or digital literacy. We are now at the level that this is a child safety issue with you needing to be present. And without you there, kids are at higher risk than without you there. If you're there, less risk. You there, what did I say? Do you know what I'm saying? If you're not there, kids are in trouble. So, anyway, exactly. So the Brokers of Expertise site is an opportunity for us to actually make go. It's like, let me put it to you this way. It's a digital library. Do you know any librarians we could use? It's a digital library. And what's so powerful about this is the state's watching. And if we become the experts on our standards, which are now posted there, Brokers of Expertise, Imperial County Office of Ed, and worked day and night for 2 weeks to get our standards posted on that site. They are there now. Now they're waiting for us. If we populate and begin to participate in that site, it's a PR move so that the people in decision-making can see we are the ones who can step up when it's needed. And that will, I tell you, that will have tremendous fulcrum opportunities for us. So this is about surfacing our value. And by the way, it's called Brokers of Expertise. And so let's show off our... I think I just finished and went over. That was a Glen Warren 5 minutes. That's what that was. Okay. Thank you for your attention.